If I could go back and sit down with a younger version of myself, maybe 21, 22 years old, I'd tell him to slow down. What you're feeling right now is normal. You're not falling behind. You're not broken. You're just in your 20s. And your 20s are different and disorienting in ways that no one really prepares you for. Let's talk about why. Why does everything feel so disorienting? Because I don't think it's any one thing. I think it's actually a lot of things that begin to just really all hit at once. And when you start naming them out, it actually starts to make a lot of sense. You really don't have any structure anymore. You spent the first 18 to 22 years of your life inside a system that told you exactly where to be and when. Wake up, go to class, come back, study, repeat. There was always a next thing. Next semester, a next year, a next milestone right around the corner. The calendar was always full. Clubs, intramurals, events, group projects, really your social life and your schedule were basically placed in your lap. And then one day it just stops. No one hands you a schedule for adulthood. No one tells you what Monday morning is supposed to look like anymore. And I don't think most of us realize how much we were leaning on that structure until it was completely gone. It's like the scaffolding that was holding everything up all along just quietly got removed, and you didn't even notice it was there until you're standing in the middle of your apartment on a Sunday afternoon, wondering why it feels so empty. Really, the main structure in your life now revolves around work. School taught you the hard skills, the formulas, the frameworks, the technical stuff that you can actually put on a resume. But no one teaches you how to navigate the job itself. No one really teaches you the soft skills, how to communicate upward to your boss, how to manage an email inbox, how to read a corporate room. You really have to develop all of that on your own in real time, and usually through trial and error. Here's the part that stings. You make mistakes early on that unfortunately count before you even understand that they count. You say the wrong thing in the wrong meeting, you misread a situation, you didn't communicate a certain situation well enough to your peers and coworkers, you didn't advocate for yourself when you really should have. And by the time you figure out the game, you've already played a couple bad hands. Unfortunately for most, that's just the reality of navigating a career in your 20s. So you get home from work and somehow you have less free time now than you did in college, which sounds insane because you're not sitting in class for 15 hours a week anymore, but the hours between clocking out and going to sleep somehow just vanish. The cooking, the cleaning, the laundry, the grocery runs, the bills, and the appointments, all those things that used to kind of just happen around you, someone else was quietly handling, and now lands on you every single day. I got to a point where I used to tell myself when it came to dishes or laundry, XYZ, you name it, if you don't, no one else will. It lands on your shoulders. What's left after all of that? You're supposed to use that time to decompress, maintain your friendships, pursue hobbies, work out, and somehow still feel like a full human being. When it comes to maintaining those friendships, this is the part that I probably struggled with the most. In school, proximity did all of the work. You lived with these people, you had class with them, ate with them, ran in all the same social circles. You didn't have to be intentional about it, you were just together. The second that changes, you start to realize that some of those friendships were held together more by proximity than anything else. I recently read a stat that once you graduate college, you've already spent 95% of the time that you ever will with your college friends. And that kind of hit me like a dump truck. On top of all of that, you open Instagram and one of these acquaintances just got promoted. Someone else just bought a house. Someone else is on the beach somewhere that looks really expensive. And this voice in the back of your head starts asking, am I behind? It's not just social media. It's the family dinner where your aunt asks you when you're going to get married. It's the cousin who's 2 years younger than you and already seems like he has it figured out. It's the quiet pressure from the people who mean well, but somehow make you feel like you're losing a race that you never signed up for. And speaking of your aunt's lofty dating and marriage expectations for you, no one warned you about how complicated romantic relationships get in your 20s either. Whether you're out there dating, in something serious, or somewhere in between, it's a lot. Dating apps have made it easier than ever before to meet people, but at the same time, somehow harder than ever to actually connect with them. There's ambiguity everywhere, no one wants to define anything, and you're trying to figure out what you want in another person, while at the same time you're trying to figure out who you are, which doing both things at the same time can be a bit of a nightmare. And if you're already in a committed relationship, you've got a whole other layer on top of that. When's the right time to take the next step? When do you bring up marriage? When do you start talking about kids? And how do you navigate all of that when you're still figuring out your own career, your own finances, and yourself? Speaking of your own finances, there's money, and this one never really turns off. There's this constant low grade guilt that follows you around, and every time you spend money on something you enjoy, there's a voice in the back of your head asking whether you should have saved it instead. And at the same time, you don't want to spend your entire 20s white knuckling every dollar that life passes you by, but you actually want to live. Finding that balance is genuinely hard and honestly deserves its own conversation. Eventually, there'll be a dedicated video on that balance soon because there's a lot to unpack there. Underneath all of it, the structure, career, friendships, money, the whole nine yards, there's this deeper question that a lot of us are quietly carrying around. What's the point? Not in a dark way, just in an honest way. You were told to work hard, get good grades, get a good job, build a life, and you're doing that now. You've got the job, you're paying your bills, and by most measures, you're fine. You're doing well. But something still feels like it's missing. Like there's supposed to be more than this. There's a pressure to have a passion, a purpose, a why, which to an extent are great questions to pursue. But past a certain point, it's really exhausting, especially when you look around and everyone else appears to have one, but you're still waiting for yours to just show up. Here's what I've landed on. Meaning isn't something you find, it's something you build. It builds through the things that you choose to show up for, the people you invest in, the work that you decide actually matters to you, and it doesn't all arrive at once. No one hands it to you. If you pay attention and allow it to come into your life, your passion, purpose, and meaning will grow if you let it. I want to say this. You are not alone in any of these feelings. We're all going through a quarter life crisis of sorts, and that's okay. Seriously, it's okay to feel a little bit lost right now. The fact that you feel lost might actually mean that you're paying attention, you care about getting it right, and you're not allowing yourself to become complacent and coast through life aimlessly. No one on this planet has lived life before. No one has lived your life before. We're all here for the first time, all just trying to figure out as we go. I had this realization actually with my parents and grandparents recently. In the same way that we're trying to figure out, they're just trying to figure out as well. Even the people who you think have it figured out or have all the right answers, they're learning as they go as well. One of my favorite quotes that you might have heard before: no man ever steps into the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man. You might have heard the fun fact that every cell in your body dies and is regenerated every 7 years or so. And while that's true, this quote has nothing to do with your physical body. I like to think of the river as life as we experience it. The ups, the downs, maybe the drifting feeling that we experience along the way. If you haven't realized it by now, just like a river, life moves. It doesn't stop. Sometimes I find myself wishing I could just pause certain moments to experience them longer, to fully take in the moment. Sometimes I wish I could speed up a moment, maybe to skip through an anxious or hectic season of life. Maybe to speed up to that next milestone that I'm desiring. Maybe just to speed up till 5 o'clock so I can go home. But unfortunately, we don't get that choice. We're at the pace of the river. Time continues to move regardless of our wants or desires. We are the man who wades into that river, but each time we're a different man, a man with new experiences, new perceptions on the river and the environment around it, maybe a man with new skills or new companions that he brings to the river's edge alongside him. And here's the thing, we're all wading into the same river, but just at different points down the bank. The guy you graduated college with who appears to be a rock star on LinkedIn lays in bed at night with the same fears and questions as you. The friend who just got engaged is privately pondering if they're making the right call. The person who just bought a house is worried about the new boulder of debt that they just picked up. We're all wading into the same river. We might not be able to see each other down the shore because of the trees or fog. That doesn't mean that we're alone. I'd like to leave you with the channel motto: enjoy the fog. What does that even mean? It means this: even when you're surrounded in fog, you can't see up from down or left from right, and you can barely see 10 feet in front of you, enjoy where you are. I found that instead of enjoying the fog around me, I was wishing away my 20s in an effort to see past the fog to the future ahead of me. Slow down. You don't have to have it all figured out. We're all in our own little quarter life crisis, and that's just fine. It's been Q-Hall, and until next time, enjoy the fog.